Dave Kenworthy here, following on from the last presentation where we learned that the line from Old Sarum up to Stonehenge is exactly 6 miles using Google Earth. Now I've drawn a couple more lines on this this part of southern England on Salisbury Plain. And the first one is the line from Old Sarum to Avebury, and it's this line that you can see here. And it's 23.3 miles, 23 1/3 miles exactly. And this line at the top is actually drawn from Old Sarum down to Hengistbury Head, and that's 140,000 feet exactly. So what we've got now, let me just quickly explain this. I'm using William Stukeley's work. He went to Stanton Drew and decided that Stanton Drew and the other circles there were a model of the solar system. And what I'm saying is that Old Sarum is the sun. It represents the sun. It's called Old Sarisbury. That's its old name, Saris. And we're talking about saros cycles here. And we're talking about Salisbury or Sarisbury or Sarosbury. So we're looking at the Saros. Salisbury Plain is the Saros Plain. It's the plain of the Saros. Salisbury represents the sun. Just by name alone, it's suggesting that it does that. Now we're going to Stonehenge, and Stukeley told us that Stonehenge is a temple to Venus. So I don't really need to say any more about that. Silbury Hill. Sil is an old word for the moon. Silver. Silver comes from Sil, the silver moon. And obviously Avebury is the earth. It can't be anything else. Now, I'm not sure about what Hengistbury Head's representing, but you might think it would be Mars. I don't know. I haven't done any work on that. But we don't really need to know, do we? Because the key star in the sky is Venus, isn't it? By a mile, by a million miles. And I got into Tom through reading a book called Civilization 1 by Knight and Butler. And they went to Newgrange in Ireland, and they decided that every 8 years you can line up the rising light of Venus in the sky coming straight through the light box at Newgrange, like an atomic clock. They were saying it's set up, and every 8 years you get the cycle of Venus, and it's 2,919.6 days. And they knew that. They knew it at Stonehenge, and they knew it at Newgrange. So what are we looking at then? We're looking at a model of the solar system. Now we've got the two outliers up in the Orkneys. You can work out yourselves what they might be. I'm not going to suggest it. But for sure, the mathematics on Salisbury Plain is the mathematics of the eclipse. And we're going to look at that now on my spreadsheet. And what I think these Babylonians and Sumerians understood was that square roots approximate to astronomical cycles. So you can actually design circles and build in astronomical cycles by using square root approximates and approximates of pi. I don't think they thought of pi the way that we do now. I think they thought that it was a manipulation device, and that you could produce nice whole number circles by using different versions of pi and different versions of square roots. And they did it fractionally, so it's fairly easy to work out what they were using. So we've got to think a little bit about this now. We've got a civilization here that is hyper accurately measuring using the mile and using the megalithic yard. And they're predicting eclipses, so they want to know the saros cycle, and they want to know the nodal cycle. And the nodal cycle is 6,800 days, and the saros is 6,600, and that's 450 eclipse units. And the saros exact cycle is 449 eclipse units. And in the saros cycle, they're using root 2 as 99/7. And in the nodal cycle, they're using root 3 as 1.7333. And the distance from Stonehenge to Avebury is 17.333 miles. And the eclipse danger period is 173.333 days. And this is what they were doing. And once we know that, we can start to chip away at these numbers and find out what's going on. And the one that stands out is 91520 for a lot of reasons. But it's going to take us back to the Aubrey Circle, this number. And that's going to be the next presentation. And Stukely gave us a diagram of the Aubrey Circle that has completely been missed by our archaeologists. Even Aubrey Burl didn't say anything about it, and it's in his book. And it stands out like a sore thumb, and I still think I'm seeing things when I see it. But this 91520 is a real standout number, and I'll show you why. But first of all, let's have a look at this 6 miles, because it's prime 11, and that gives 2880 if we divide it into 31680 feet. 23.3 is 123200, divides by 7 and gives 17600. Well, there are 1760 yards in a mile. So we can see the connection there. 91520, I'll leave that till last. And 1400 divided by 7 gives us 2000. So we can see prime 11 and prime 7 being used here. And obviously we can use pi with these numbers as 22/7. We can either use them as diameters, which is what we do here in this case, or we can use them as perimeters, as in this case and this case. Now this number 3168 is very important in ancient metrology. It was called the root of ancient metrology by John Michel, who's probably the best metrologist that there's ever been. And John Neal has picked up on that, and Harry Sivertson's picked up on that, and it's a key number. And if you multiply it by 34 divided by 33, you get 32640. That's Tom's megalithic yard, and it's that simple to get to it. So what are we going to do with this 91520? Well, it's prime 11, so we're going to divide it by 22. And we're going to multiply it by 7. We get 29120. Now that number is so important. If we get 56 and 52, (2912). That's the number of days that the Aubrey Circle's representing at Stonehenge. 2912 days. And that's 8 cycles of 364 days. So the full cycle is 2922 days, because the 8-year cycle produces an extra 1.25 days every year. Multiply that by 8, you get 10, and that's a sacred number. And we add it to that to get 2922. And the Venus cycle is 2919.6. So we can see how easy it is to pull all these numbers back together at Stonehenge, and how important that one is, because it doesn't just divide by 7, it divides by 13. And that is so important, because 7 times 13 is 91, and that's one season at Stonehenge, 91 days. So we're beginning to see now just how complex this system is. And let me just show you the megalithic yard, because we've got for pi is 22/7, we've got 99 divided by 70. and it's multiplied by 20 divided by 9. That's 22/7. So root 2 is built into 22/7. And the same for root 3, but a different version of pi. And this version of pi is 17 divided by 13 multiplied by 2.4. That's the version of pi that works with Tom's megalithic yard. And root 2, or half root 2, is embedded in that number. And half root 2 is 0.86. And if we multiply that number by that, we get the megalithic yard. It's all there. You just have to dig a little to find this stuff. And you have to use fractional mathematics, which is tricky. But it's all there. Everything is there. And we're looking at Salisbury Plain is laid out using Eclipse mathematics. Everything on Salisbury Plain relates to the prediction of eclipses. And we know it is because the Aubrey Circle was explained to us as an eclipse calculation device by none other than Professor Sir Fred Hoyle, who used to be the Royal Astronomer and who developed the solid state theory for the evolution of the universe, which went out of fashion, but I think it might be coming back in fashion. I don't know. But these people, Sir Fred Hoyle, Alexander Thom, William Stukeley, these people are absolutely at the top of the game, and we're not paying attention to them, and we should be. And I want people to understand that something very special was happening with these ancient people. And this straight line theory of evolution doesn't work at all, because these people, they were smarter than we are. Alexander Thom said about these people, and I'm quoting from a TV documentary that he was on, called Cracking the Stone Age Code, I think it was, and Magnus Magnusson presented it. He actually says to Magnus Magnusson, in terms of sheer brain power, these people were my superior. And he was an Oxford professor at the top of his game who retired early so he could chase these circles down and what was inside them. And he was probably the only person in the world that had the talent to do that at the time. And the door was just slammed in his face. And it's completely wrong as far as I'm concerned. And I think our archaeologists need to be accountable for what's happened to him. Thank you.